What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. And in this video, you're seeing the clips that I took from my live stream when the Super Boss KIZUNA first came out. Now, what you're seeing in this video today is not going to be pertaining to the Super Boss. I will be uploading a separate video in regards to the 15-star difficulty Super Bosses, and there's lots to discuss in regards to those. But in this video, we're looking at the base difficulty of KIZUNA, and we have 3 different teams for each different variation to give you guys a bit of ideas as to what you could look for in terms of team building against these bosses here. So, of course, the first one here is the exact team that I showed off in my preparation video. Now, one thing that we didn't know moving into this quest was the fact that the mini bosses on stage 2 actually have a lot more HP than we were anticipating. I think they have upwards of like 6 or 7 million HP, so you really have to dedicate a special or 2 in order to actually kill this mini boss, which is a bit of a shame. You know, it is obviously better to conserve all specials for the final stage to give you the most damage possible. But look, it is what it is. So we're going to be using Goldie Roger here. We use Frankie Special to give us the conditional boost and the defense down on the final stage. Shank Special gives us defense down on stage 2. Roger Special, if needed. You know, my Shanks here was level limit break, but if you don't have level limit break Shanks, then of course you can just use a Roger Special on this stage. Alternatively, you can just conserve both Roger Specials to have the color affinity for that stage if you wanted to run something like that. We have the Orb Boost with Viola, and then Hawkins is so good for removing the paralysis and also giving damage immunity versus this boss fight, so you don't have to worry about the death hit, even though you do have enough HP to actually tank it. Moving on to the secondary team here, this one is going to be using a lot more of those New Year's characters. Now, originally this team was a bit different. I was betting on the fact that Robin Special was going to have enough defense reduction in order to kill stage 2 and stage 3. However, with testing, we did find that Robin Special, with her defense reduction, which I believe is only an 80% reduction, is not enough defense down to pierce the defense up from the Sugar Boss stage on stage 2. So you really have to bring a dedicated character in order to remove the defense or in order to reduce the defense to 0. So just putting it out there, you need a way to get rid of that blue shield or remove it completely. You know, half measures are not going to work. You need to take those full measures in order to actually pierce that defensive effect there. Now, with Nami here, we can actually use her special as well, because on the final stage, everyone's inflicted with 5 turns of paralysis. Nami removes it and gives her cooldown, so it makes a lot of sense in order to do that. And the rest of the specials here are kind of just dedicated to deal with the additional effects. Of course, paralysis by Nami, defense up by the support attached to Brook, and then there is attack down after level 30, which of course we will be using the Sanji in order to remove the attack down for us, which is actually really solid. This next clip is the one team versus all versus the int variation of the boss. Now, I have actually updated the team slightly compared to what you're seeing here, so I might upload a YouTube short or a separate video showing off another one team versus all that is a little bit more consistent, as I do try and get a matching slot on Bato just to secure victory on stage 2, because we didn't anticipate the bosses to have that much HP on stage 2, so the teams are a little bit more flimsy than what I would have liked. Despite that, the team does actually work against all variations as you're seeing here. Doflamingo with the Bellamy, very, very required in order to remove all turns of that increased defense, and that color affinity is really nice to ensure that Barto is going to be hitting super effectively with mass damage. And because we are running a lot of int characters, the Sugar fight in particular is the easiest of the 3 bosses. Well, I think another one might be Sai. Now, one is a Sai, one's a Dex fight, one's an int fight. Either way, Kaido carries hard with his damage dealing effect, the mass attack boost and the orb boost, but of course utility wise, we need to make sure that we use those utility specials prior to launching Kaido, because after launching the Kaido special, you can only use 2 specials for the rest of that run. So we're ideally using the Kaido special, then the Barto special, which will give us utility and conditional boost, and then probably Killer, which will give us a mass color affinity boost to the squad. Now we can go ahead and have a look at the next boss variation, which is going to be versus the Quick. And of course, this is my quote-unquote accessible style team that I did kind of show off in my preparation video. But the really cool thing about using this team is Kid kind of carries hard, actually. And especially if you have him with level limit break, you get a lot of beneficial effects with him. So we can use his super type and his actual special to remove the damage threshold that you'll encounter in Battle 2, as well as give you an attack boost and do lots of damage to the opposing side. But then what you can do is by conserving a super bomb slot on Kid, when we reach the last stage, when we do a tap with Kid, as long as he has a bomb or a super bomb slot, he removes 5 turns of defense, damage reduction, Rainbow Shield. And that means we don't need a dedicated unit on the crew in order to remove that. Now the rest of the crew is kind of dedicated to doing as much damage as possible. We have the Yamato, of course, which can provide us with an attack boost on the final stage, and then we also have Nami, who's giving us color affinity and an orb boost to the crew. And Nami's good as well because she does provide a bit of utility piece, which is actually pretty good. But then we've also got the Barto here. Barto is going to be fantastic because he actually gives us damage reduction, which means that the damage reduction attack boost from Yamato is going to be activated. But then if you use his special again, you get a chain locking effect, and then the Jinbei gives you a defense and conditional boost that self procs. So this special, this team in general, is pretty easy to build and does absurd damage. Moving on now to a team with a lot more point boosters in this team. We have a pretty absurd looking one here with, you know, the New Year's characters, Yamato, Nami, Robin, the pretty typical suspects. We are using Kizuna Luffy, and he's really good here because we can use his special on stage 2 to remove the 5 turns of damage threshold. Now, I did actually use Nami's special on stage 2, but looking back at it, you definitely want to save Nami for stage 3 because the enemy does have 5 turns of Rainbow Shield, and Nami is the only character on this team that actually removes it. So I was being a little bit weird. I shouldn't have done that. A little bit odd. I should have conserved the Nami special. I just was not thinking that the Luffy special was enough damage in order to kill, but looking back at it, it definitely would have been, especially if you're able to conserve slots moving into this stage. So you probably don't need to use the Nami special here. You can save it for the final stage. It won't really be a problem. Yamato is definitely the most ideal captain to be using here, at least one of your captains being Yamato, because when you reach the final stage, you get inflicted with 8 turns of despair, 9 turns after level 30, and being able to just resist it completely is fantastic. And after level 30, you are inflicted with 5 turns of paralysis, which Nami as a captain is also able to remove. Moving on now to the one team versus all, and it's a pretty typical looking team once again, as you guys have already seen it in the previous clip. And once again, stage 2, there's going to be 5 turns of damage threshold, but the combination of the Doflamingo with the Bellamy support is going to really tip us over the edge in terms of getting around that stage. Alternatively, you could potentially use Barto special on stage 2, but it means that when you use the Kaido special to reverse everyone's cooldowns, you can use Barto again on stage 3, but you will not get the conditional boost and the defense down shenanigan stuff, which it would be nice to get it, but you know, it is what it is. It depends on the type of team comp that you are aiming to use. With this team as well, you see that Lin doesn't actually get cooldown here. It doesn't really matter. We're not really needing to use her special on the final stage, so that's not really going to be a problem at all. And then of course Killer once again to remove Rainbow Shield, and he also gives us that huge color affinity boost. We have the Zora to get rid of paralysis, as we said, Doflamingo for stage 2, and then the combo of Kaido, then Barto, then Killer gives us enough damage to wave clear all of these bosses for a very, very long time. Now we get to talk about the final boss variation, which is versus the Psy fight. Now, Battle 2, there's going to be a pretty hefty despair given to the crew, and once again, wasn't really anticipating the boss to have as much HP as they did, but luckily for us, we're not using Blackbeard at all on the final stage, so we're free to use his special ability on stage 2, which gives us a very, very significant attack and orb boost for himself. And the thing about it is we are inflicted with that massive despair, so that's why Who's Who is on the team. He removes that, and then once the despair is removed, the captain abilities will become active again, boosting Blackbeard's attack by a significant margin, giving him access to that super type, and by doing so, we can use that super type special to give Blackbeard himself a massive base attack boost. So clearing treble is not going to be a problem after using all of these specials on this stage. But then when we reach the final stage, we have the typical shenanigans of a bunch of utility specials plus Kaido. So making sure to use the right specials that we need in order to get around the gimmicks, and then using Kaido special, and then using 2 other specials to give us more damage. So typically, you'd use the Kaido special after removing all of the gimmicks, then you can use Killer special to give you a huge color affinity boost, and then you could use Katarina Devon, which gets rid of 6 turns of damage threshold, which is what you need to remove after level 30, 5 turns at base, but also gives you a delayed conditional boost, which you are able to get, which is awesome. So overall, a really, really fun team, a really accessible team too, in order to get through this fight. The next team is pretty much the same looking team, but we're switching the captains around a little bit. We're going to be using Kaido captain and then Big Mom as the friend captain. And by doing so, it enables us to use Big Mom's special on stage 2, which means that we can get through that stage pretty comfortably. And also by doing this, it means that we can get access to super typing. So our int characters will just have more inherent color affinity, meaning they do more damage. But this team is like legit fairly similar to how we already anticipated the previous team. So not really too much to discuss here. It it is essentially the same looking team. Katarina Devon for delayed conditional, Killer or Sasaki, take your pick for color affinity, Kaido for the attack and orb boost, of course. The super typing, of course, can also give you color affinity with Big Mom, so you could alternatively just use it here as well. Doesn't really matter. But Big Mom's kind of interesting because she can give you a conditional boost against enemies that are inflicted with the Ignite effect. So technically, after you use the Kaido special, you can use Big Mom to give you the conditional boost with that, but you do have Katarina Devon, which is a free-to-play character that can also give you a conditional boost. So really take your pick with how you want to deal with this stage. It is pretty easy, all things considered. And then the final clip of this video will be with the one team versus all, and very, very similar stuff. You know, we're dealing with despair on stage 2 here, and the way that we're dealing with that is that I kind of screw up a little bit. I do end up using the Bato special here, but that's when I kind of consider the fact that by doing that, it means we don't get his conditional boost on the final stage. One thing that about this team is you can do that. That's not really a big issue because this team does have a lot of int characters, which means that the Psy fight is going to be the easiest one in the long run. Once you get to those deeper levels of Kizuna, those int characters on your team are going to be very valuable. So not having the conditional boost, well, yes, you do get less damage. This team will do more damage without it, so it is what it is. You can kind of do whatever you want to do. Alternatively, you could just use Linlin special to remove the despair here on this stage. It is really dependent on what you want to do. Either way, it's going to be fine. It's going to work for a pretty long time. But that is going to wrap it up for me. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you guys did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all of the content that I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But other than that, guys, I will see you guys within the next video.